Number 1. Learn to love problems. Actively seek them out. In fact, the first problem we encounter when it comes to problem solving is finding a problem worth solving. This is rather more difficult than it sounds, as most of us have been conditioned and trained to ignore problems or else make them someone else's to solve. One of the leadership programs that Kieran runs with an extraordinary colleague, Janine Garner, has a task in it where future leaders are asked to find a problem they are passionate about solving in their organisation. They then spend months working with Kieran and Janine to define the problem, develop the solution, and create a white paper on it before presenting their solution to the board and executive team in a lightning talk. Unsurprisingly, on day one, when they hear the task, there are groans and moans and resistance. However, over the course of the program, this begins to shift as they start to see the value of problem finding. They begin to see their problem as a springboard to showcase the kind of thinking they can bring to the company as a leader. One of the participants in the program was a woman in her 20s named Cherie. She had noticed that the servers the business built were taking longer to arrive at their client's premises than was ideal. This led her to question why. She discovered that before getting shipped out, each server they built had to go through a complex and drawn-out checking process. Many of them were older legacy checks. Some were checks that could and should be automated, and some of them could be solved and never need to be performed again. Her problem and its solution was then built around a key question: who's checking the checks? The problem wasn't driven by human error or a lack of engagement. It was simply that checks that had initially been useful had become irrelevant. Her project has since been adopted globally and is saving the company significant quantities of time, money, client frustrations, and lost sales. It has also brought Cherie to the attention of the organisation's global leadership. An ability to solve problems will always elevate your status and usefulness in your work, so we must all cultivate this skill in ourselves. Even in the process of solving problems, new problems and challenges along the way can actually be a good thing. In fact, we've found that the greater the restrictions we are operating under, the richer the creativity. It's something that's evident in reality shows of all places. Project Runway, for instance, always creates unnecessary constraints that contestants have to work within, and it leads to better, more innovative solutions. If, every week, they simply said, "You have a week and an unlimited budget to do whatever you like," there would be no inherent tension, no bootstrapping creativity, and the show would be pretty boring, with most contestants struggling to solve an ill-defined challenge. But what tools and techniques can we learn to help us access our inner MacGyver? Number 2. Thinking questions, not statements. The problem with thinking in statements is that they presuppose a solution. There's a big difference between the statement, "We need to build a bridge," and the question, "How might we get across a body of water?" One approach closes off possibility. The other opens up multiple possibilities. Now, many of these possibilities will be impractical and unworkable. Few people will want to be shot out of a cannon into a waiting safety net, or sign up for an Evel Knievel-themed motorcycle taxi service. But when your choice is limited to one option, it's not really a choice at all. We need to teach ourselves, our teams, and our kids to turn statements into questions when they are problem-solving. This actively forces our brain to consider different solutions and look for connections it otherwise wouldn't. Questions change the parameters in which we operate. When we make statements, we get the answers we expect. For example, in 2012, Houston Airport had a high number of complaints about the time it took for bags to reach the carousels for collection. The customers hated waiting, unsurprisingly, and expressed their discontent. Traditional statement-based thinking would say, in order to reduce customer complaints, we need to speed up baggage delivery. Yet if we